Hello and good morning, friends. Today we are going to continue our discussion on fundamental rights. So today we will finish it actually. So let's start it. Article 23, we have already done right to equality and right to freedom. Today is Article 23, right against exploitation. And in Article 23, we are given this prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. So this means that humans are not commodities. You cannot buy or sell humans. You cannot ask someone to do begar. I think every one of you will be familiar with this term begar, where people are made to work and they're not paid for it. So these things are prohibited. Article 24 says that prohibition of employment of children in factories. First, this article suggested that the children below the age of 14 will not be employed in hazardous factories or hazardous workplaces, something that is dangerous. But later on, this was extended to overall any occupation. So any children who is below the age of 14 cannot be employed in any occupation at all. That is a legal crime. Article 25, now moving on, is right to freedom of religion. Remember these main terms and then remember what they are, explain them, because in the exam you're not going to have a whole day to write them. You can write a lot of things about fundamental rights, but basically you have enough content. You write 6 of their names and then you explain in 2 lines or 3 lines. That's simple. That's a lot of content for a good answer. For a good answer. So now start. Article 25 says right to freedom of religion. Freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. So everyone can profess his religion, can have whichever religion he wants to, and he can practice his religion, and also you can propagate your religion. You can tell the other person about things of your religion. Of course you cannot force someone, but you are free to propagate your religion. Then in Article 26, there is freedom to manage religious affairs. Institutions of religion like the temples or mosque or church, they're free to manage their religious affairs. They're free to make or frame their rules and then work accordingly. Then Article 27 says freedom from taxation for promotion of a religion. You cannot be charged a tax for promotion of a religion. There cannot be a religious tax. This also means that if someone is charged the tax like income tax or corporate tax or any other tax like GST, that tax cannot be used for promotion of a religion. Okay, so it's completely exemption from taxation of a religion for the promotion of a religion. And then Article 28 says the freedom from attending religious instruction. If somebody studies in a government institution that is completely established by government, then religious instructions are completely prohibited. If somebody studies in an institution that is aided by the government, recognized by the government, then the religious instruction are voluntary. You cannot force someone to attend religious instruction. It's basically voluntary basic. One person wants to attend it, can attend it. If the person does not want to be a part of a religious instruction, then he can completely refuse. It's only allowed in the specific institutions of religious endowments. Otherwise, when they are managed by the state, established by the state, or aided by the state, they cannot indulge into religious instructions. Now, Article 29 says the cultural and educational rights. These rights are given to specific diversity of our country. Article 29 says the protection of interest of minorities. Any section of citizens having a distinct language, script, or culture of its own shall have the right to conserve the same. This means that any section of the citizen, they're not talking about minorities or some other specific groups. They're saying any section of the citizen, whether if they are coming from the majority. The point is that they should have a distinct language. We know we have thousands of languages in India. 22 of them are actually constitutional languages. Then script or culture of its own. The tribal people and multiple linguistic groups or multiple diverse groups that our country has, all of them have a right to conserve their culture, their language, their script. And the Article 30 says the right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. The minorities, however, the term minority is not anywhere defined, but the minorities can establish and administration educational institutions. And if they are doing it, the government cannot make any kind of discrimination in recognizing them or giving them grant. The government will have to treat all of them equally. Now moving on to the last and most important right. This is also called the heart and soul of our constitution by Dr. Ambedkar. Article 32 is right to constitutional remedies. This means that if these rights are violated, you have a right to go to the Supreme Court directly. You can go to the apex court. This means that without this article, without this right, without the right of going to the court, all of those articles will become only paperly exercise. They will exist only on paper if you do not have any kind of right to actually enforce them. So this is the right that gives power to all other rights as well. So with Article 32, you can go to the Supreme Court. However, you can also approach the High Court by invoking Article 226. But for the sake of the fundamental rights, the Article 32 itself is a fundamental right, right to constitutional remedies. And when you go to the Supreme Court, there are 5 writs that the court can issue. These writs are actually the power of the court, by which power the court can address your issues. First is the habeas corpus. This means have the body. These are Latin words, and you have to understand them in Hindi or English. Simple. So habeas corpus means have the body. This means if someone is arrested within 24 hours, he has to be presented in front of a magistrate. You cannot just detain someone for as long as you want without presenting them to the court. You have to take the permission of the court in order to detain someone more than 24 hours. Then the second writ is mandamus. That means we command. Again, just remember is mandamus. So just remember mand, and then that is command. Okay, mandamus means we command. That means that the Supreme Court can order public authorities or public offices. You may have heard this in the news that Supreme Court ordered something. Supreme Court ordered that department to do this. Supreme Court asked someone to be present in the court. You know, that power is coming from here. Mandamus, we command. Supreme Court can command. Prohibition to forbid. Supreme Court, since we have integrated judiciary, Supreme Court can forbid a lower court, a high court or some other court, if in the eyes of the Supreme Court, the other court, the lower court, is exceeding its jurisdiction. It is indulging in matters that are outside of its jurisdiction, outside of its area of control. 4 is certiorari, to be informed. That means that the higher court can order the lower court and take the matter in its own hands, or it can send the case to some different court. It has the power. Then the last one is quo warranto, by what authority. If someone is holding an office, the Supreme Court has a power to ask this person that by what authority are you holding this office. Public office, of course. So Supreme Court has a power to investigate about someone's eligibility to certain kind of offices. So I hope that was amazing for you to learn. Now we are going to go through the criticism already. We have done the importance in the previous class, so you can remember, you should at least try and revise the importance, because in every question there will be or the fundamental rights, their importance, or critically examine the fundamental rights. So you have to remember the criticism and importance, both of them. But they're basically same, just by opposite perspective. So yes, the criticism, excessive limitation, as we talked about in the previous class, that there are many limitations. The fundamental rights are not available during emergency, they are not available during martial laws, and there can be reasonable restrictions. And there are many reasonable restrictions. Point 2 is no social and economic right. We have plenty of rights. We have from Article 14 to 32. But one thing that was missing is that there was no right to work. There was no right to employment. And without employment, you cannot even imagine to have a good life. You cannot live a life of dignity without a right to work, without a right to get paid. So there is no right to work, and that is a missing thing, a missing part of the puzzle. Now, no clarity, ambiguous words. Since the constitution framers were mostly lawyers, there have been the legal words everywhere in the constitution. So there are many tough words, many tough words, many ambiguous words. Like, what do you mean by reasonable restrictions? What are reasonable restrictions? And the minority, who are going to define what minorities are? Plus we also learned few words, that writ words, they were in Latin language. So there are ambiguous words that can be a meaning in different kind of terms. One person can understand something different, other can understand something different. So there is no clarity, but law has to be clear in order to work. So clarity is missing. 4th is expensive remedy. Alright, we understand that the person has been given this right to approach to the Supreme Court, but the wheels of justice barely move in India. we know how slow and tedious is the whole process of legal justice in India. People try to avoid courts, and that is for a reason, because they know the working of the courts are very slow, plus it's very expensive for a person who is working somewhere without even getting any coordination, who doesn't even get paid much or doesn't get paid at all. How is he going to afford the constitutional remedies? People who are not even aware of their rights, how are they going to approach the courts? So the process is very tedious, and the whole remedy process is very expensive for a common person, for a poor person. So this was the criticism. We have done the importance and significance already, so you can revise it from the previous classes. And we have completed the fundamental topic. Now we will move on to the next topic in the next class. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. See you in the next class. And do revise. Please revise. It's very important to revise. Thank you.